Hello, hello. Welcome back to the Black on Black Education.
Start over now.
Hello. Welcome back to the Black on Black Education podcast. I am here with my co-founder, Jamal Thomas, and we have a guest, and I am so excited to, as always, let them introduce themselves. Take it away.
Good evening. Good evening. My name is Anna Nyakana. You can follow me on IG at Nyazuri. And I am an award-winning and best-selling children's book author, most notably of Nyazuri and the Pharaoh's Throne. I'm also a motivational speaker and an entrepreneur. So excited to dig in and connect with everyone on Black education.
Yes. Beautiful. So the way I like to ask folks to fully introduce themselves so that everybody who's listening gets a full fleshed out idea of who you are. Give us a rundown of who you are, what do you do, and why do you do it? So connect it back to how you started, but why, how did you get here?
Absolutely. So I started my journey, well, actually back in the music world in my 20s, but once I started focusing on what I wanted to do to leave an impression on this world that would uplift our youth, I knew that I wanted to take all my skills, my 20,000 hours of music that I had instilled and invested in myself as a child, and actually write a book, but not just any book. I wanted to write a children's book that highlighted representation, that made girls feel empowered and actually taught history versus indoctrination in the classroom. My number one mission has been and will always be to bring diversity to the classroom so children can feel self-love and also gain that self-knowledge as well as empathy and understanding for cultures different than their own.
I love it. History versus indoctrination. That's going on page. Like no doubt about it. And so you mentioned your book, and so thank you for that. And let's start talking a little bit about Naya. Like, tell us, how was she born? How was she created? Where did she come from?
She's amazing. So Naya is actually based on a younger version of myself. She is not a tomboy. Her jeans are ripped. There's leaves in her hair. But you know what? She's not scared of her voice. She's a natural born leader. And she finds a way to always problem solve and use her critical thinking skills versus like the stereotypical girl in a story where she's the princess in distress and, is waiting for someone to save her. No, Naya's the one who figures out a way how to save herself and also save others. She's an amazing heroine that is empowering girls, but really empowering all children to understand how to problem solve, to understand how to be embracing of cultures different than their own, because Naya is always dropping gems and always dropping knowledge. And she's actually the key of the map that her and her best friends, Miguel and Hugo Gonzalez, used to actually time travel and go to different cultures and different periods in time. She's that pivotal key. And later on in the series, we'll discover exactly what it is about Naya that is able to unlock these mystical or these mysterious superpowers into being able to time travel and really become master of time and space. But she's a phenomenal girl.
She sounds like it.
She does. Toni Morrison actually once said that, if there's a book out there that has not been written, that you think should be written. I'm getting the quote a little chopped up, but
I know the one you mean. Write it.
Yeah, exactly. Write it. So, but why was that book for you?
This book for me. Excellent question. Growing up, actually immigrated here from Berlin, Germany. And I was an English as a second learner for years. And I was always discouraged because I could never find books in my library to take home because none of the kids or the characters looked anything like me. It was always an animal or a boy or maybe a princess if I could find it. But she still didn't look anything like me, nor the strong woman or young woman that I know my parents were instilling in me to become. So something that always discouraged me. Actually, someone asked me the other day, what was my favorite book as a child? And I said the Merriam Dictionary that I found in a classroom one day, and I swiped it and took it home because that's actually how I would practice my English. I would just underline a word and I would keep it in my backpack and I would practice that word every day until I committed it to my memory. And that was something that never left me because there shouldn't have been any reason why I couldn't connect with a book. No reason. So I knew that when it was my time to change that narrative, I knew the exact story I wanted to write. I knew the exact themes and the reasoning and the purpose behind even writing it. Nyazuri, yes, she's a little girl, but her name and really the whole theme and the whole movement of Nyazuri is to inspire children and others to really live beautifully, to walk purposefully, but to live beautifully in their lives. And that's what Nyakana means, beautiful purpose. I want people to be purposeful, but especially our youth. They're not being empowered and motivated and elevated, especially now in the times that we're in, let alone 20 years ago when I was in school, or 30 years ago when I was in school. If only someone would have came and taken that time to come into my classroom, that would have made such a ripple effect of a difference, not only to myself, but all of the children that I went to school with. I can only imagine how many more entrepreneurs, free thinkers, businessmen and women we would have that are confident, that are living their lives purposefully, if only someone had taken that time. So I also changed the narrative in that way, because in addition to writing the book, my number one focus has been to be in the classroom, to shake up the curriculum and force these administrators to think of something fresh, to extend our history beyond 28 days of Black history, and to really teach history for once, without it being misconstrued or it being condensed, right, or concentrated, but actually diving in deep, allowing children to understand culture, their own culture that is not actually taught properly, but also culture is different than their own. That's the responsibility that we have, and that's what I do each and every day.
Love it. Yeah. And so you touched on it a little bit of the connection between your story and your coming of age story, and why Nyakana was so important. And so kind of really dig deep into that, right? I think a lot of things that you're saying are connecting with me as a dark-skinned, Afro-wearing Black girl. Grew up in a lot of spaces where I didn't have books growing up that of people who look like me. Like I remember my favorite books were like Amelia Bedelia and what else Junie B. Jones, like all of these characters that were just absolutely nothing like my life. Like Junie B. Jones would be like, my mom's not giving me cake. I hate her. Like that was the narrative in the story. And so people out there creating books like this that are really connecting real life and how people are actually feeling out there in the world to something tangible, right? Because our parents can tell us we're beautiful and gorgeous and all of those sorts of things. But when we're consistently not seeing that represented in the world, particularly at younger ages, we're forgetting that that's necessary. So just kind of dive a little bit deeper into how you connect your story into what you do, not only with Nyakana, but just in your career.
So let's see, there's a few sides to that question. So I want to just quickly piggyback on what you said about young girls, especially not being able to see themselves, or our parents telling us we're beautiful or that we're gorgeous, but really even the rest of society not really telling us the right thing to feel gorgeous or beautiful about. So everything that I encourage really with the Nyakana movement and living purposefully and living beautifully in your life is really for our young girls also to understand that their greatest treasure is not the way that they look. It's not the clothes that they wear. Believe me, I didn't have any clothes like right off of the, hanger in the store until I was like 16, 17. And I was able to start working and have enough money to buy my own, clothing. I used to wear everything that was donated. So I always felt a kind of way because I couldn't fit in with anybody. And then racially, I'm a woman of two worlds, but these two worlds didn't really want me. And I was trying to find my place in this American society. It took a while, but I finally realized like I'm a woman of color, I'm a Black woman, and I have to embrace that. And once I embraced that, it helped me really bridge that gap. And after that point, I was able to really elevate. As a youth, I started world traveling and, going to third world countries and everywhere in between, really making sure I was giving service and volunteerism. And those were all the things that were so important to me. So why I started writing Nyakana was really to transform this world. I feel that we as a society, especially American society, we can get closed in and boxed in. Like you said, oh, I can't have another piece of cake was something that one character was complaining or lamenting about to their parent. Like, what is that actually teaching our child? What is that? How is that teaching them to value their life, or the fact that they have a roof over their head or a meal in their stomach so they can, continue to grow and continue to prosper? Those are the wrong things that we're focusing on. So not only is Nyakana about history and about adventure and exploration, it's really bringing home back to children and understanding what things to be thankful for, understanding the important things of life, true friendship, knowing one's meaning in life. Once again, being exposed and embracing all world cultures, but more importantly, having that knowledge of self. And that was the big thing for me. especially as an African woman, I won't even say African American, but as an African woman in America, I couldn't understand why our history wasn't being glorified here. I couldn't understand how something of 400 years was able to wipe away every shred of advancement that we have ever contributed to this world. How is that possible? That is an injustice that our children of color don't understand, that they were the first astronomers, the first philosophers and artists, okay? The first poets, the first dancers, the first authors, okay? They're the first of everything. So why is that not being glorified? Why is that not being spotlighted? It always confused me. So once again, I was always caught into these two worlds. I'm growing up in America, but I'm not quite American. And at the same time, I'm still keeping in touch with all my family around the world. I'm still traveling as a youth. So always having that contrast of being overseas and then coming back to the States, I just couldn't understand the lack of knowledge that was being shared here until I matured. And then I realized it was done on purpose, right? That it wasn't true education, it's indoctrination. God forbid we set the minds of the youth free. God forbid we actually instill in them their rich history and in their knowledge. They will be empowered. What happens to empowered children? They become powerful adults. And these powerful adults change the world, but they change it for their own benefit as well, right? So it's a little dangerous to teach real education, but that's where I come in. So even though the schools definitely said no in the beginning and didn't want to have anything to do with me and my book, like they loved the book, but maybe they didn't have the budget, or, you know, they would say that excuse, or they loved the book, but it's too late to change the curriculum. I just became consistently persistent where the schools couldn't say no. Eventually I kind of wore them down and I had to convince them so they would understand the impact that this could have on a child of color and every child in the classroom. Once they got an idea of it, plus once they saw what I was doing at other schools, because I would go to schools that nobody cared about. I would go to the schools in the projects and in the hood that didn't have a budget, but I made sure to partner up with like corporations and just people in the community to see who can sponsor these books for the classroom. And that's all the work that I would do constantly. So eventually, when those schools saw what I was doing at the lesser than thou school, they wanted me on board, of course.
Absolutely.
But it's just interesting. Yeah, it's just interesting how things come full circle, because I've been doing this for years and the momentum really picked up 2019 and now 2020. But this has been 4 or 5 years of hard work.
Yeah.
And I also want children to understand that we can be consistent in our paths and to, like we talked about, I think slightly, those fundamental truths of Naya Zuri, which are really the gems and the pillars that I instill in the children when I go and do author visits or virtual visits or really any sort of speaking engagement. It's really to make sure that they understand that they can bet on themselves, that they should be walking in their dreams, not chasing them, right? That anything is actually possible, and that they should overcome these fears that are possibly holding them down or stopping them from even starting in the first place. So once they have that understanding, they have the knowledge of self, now they're feeling empowered. They're feeling like, oh, I don't have these chains on my throat. I can speak now. I can speak for myself. Or, oh, I don't have these chains on my mind. I can read. I can be curious. I don't have to worry that the teacher is not going to want me to ask this question. I have a voice and it's valuable, so I'm going to use it. The most amazing thing happens. That spark starts to light in them. And that's why I continue to do what I do every day. I have to make sure I don't let that younger version of me down that, once again, didn't have a book to identify with, was struggling with her own culture and trying to find my place in this world, but also was working so hard to learn English and couldn't even find a book that I could gravitate towards. There was no reason why no one should have been coming to our school. Just because we didn't have the resources for field trips, or people had to, children had to borrow or use, instruments and share books. And listen, there's no excuse at the end of the day. We need to do a better job as educators, as administrators, as individuals in our community to make sure that we are teaching our children that they can reach their highest potential, point blank, period.
Yeah. And I think that everything that you're saying is really just it's coming from a place of, it's our collective duty. Like, it's not just, that's something I think about a lot right now. Like, it is not just, oh, okay, we're voting because this is an important election. No, it is our collective duty to care for each other. Yes. And it's our collective duty to uplift each other and make sure that each and every one of us are getting our needs met, right? And so if we're thinking about that from an education perspective, for so long, it's been so easy to say, oh, well, we didn't know, or how I didn't know that it was affecting students, that there were no books that looked like them. I didn't know. I didn't know this and that. Well, we're at the point where not knowing is no longer an excuse. Absolutely. It never was, but it's definitely not now. And the only way that we make sure that not knowing is not an excuse is by forcing them to listen. And so it's saying, yes, I'm going to do the work instead of just asking a school to buy these books and them telling me, no, they don't have the money. Well, okay, we'll go find someone who's going to pay for them. And now you have these books. And now you need to figure out how you're going to use and implement them into the curriculum, and pushing and fighting and continually crawling out of this hole that they put us in.
Yes.
Right. And so it's saying that we're not going to stay here because you told us that was as high as we could go. So I love everything that you said from the perspective of, we cannot take no for an answer. I think that is like the moral of everything that you just said. And that's what I was like breathing in as you were talking there.
Thank you, sis.
And I want to acknowledge, it in the same vein, we can see the spark. Like, anybody watching this right now, anybody listening right now, they can hear, the spark in you. And that is what I'm sure, allowed you to go do what you needed to do. I spent most of my life a salesperson in some capacity or another, but oftentimes selling a thing that, I didn't really care, about that thing. It's clear that, you care about this message, that it is that you're bringing into schools, and, there's no way for them not to, feel it. They might need to hear it a couple times before they say yes, but that's the way that things work. And it sounds to me also like that is, written into your stories, and you know what I mean, that the type of determination that you showed is the type of determination it sounds like your characters also do show. So I actually look forward to I have to acknowledge that I did not read them just yet, but we will be purchasing some of that series to read to my niece and Eva's cousin, because it definitely sounds like something that could be beneficial for her.
Thank you for the encouragement and the support, and really this spotlight and this safe place for us to really be able to like air these things out and talk about them, because they're not talked about. And there's no reason why our kids now in 2020 should still be reading Charlotte's Web. No offense to Charlotte's Web, but there's so many new books, right, that highlight better themes, better problem and solution based thinking, better representation. But if we don't voice the change will never happen. They'll continue to just stay comfortable in what they're in. And someone told me the other day, I was going through like a day where a lot of obstacles were happening. And I always tell myself, when obstacles happen, they're actually opportunities for growth. So I'm like, okay, what am I supposed to be learning right now? How am I supposed to be growing from this? What is going on? And this friend had reminded me, whenever you start to feel uncomfortable, that's when you know there's growth happening, because it's something new. This is the first time you've maybe encountered an issue, or you've encountered this problem and you don't know how to resolve it. You don't know how to overcome it. You're uncomfortable. You don't know what to do. So that uncomfortability is an opportunity, right? And it's the same thing that should be happening in the schools with the curriculum. So I'm not just coming in saying, hey, buy my book. Guess what? I've actually created custom curriculum and lesson plans that go along with this book. And guess what it costs you? $0. I want this to be taught in the classroom. I want this to be taught and studied. It has a full glossary, so children are building their vocabulary. Shout out to my dictionary days. I did that on purpose. Also, so children can become confident readers and really understand that they have the ability to know what these words are, to know what these places and things are that unfortunately aren't taught to them, because they don't even know that Prince Tut was only 8 years old when he became Pharaoh. Can you imagine if a child knew that they had that royal mentality to be able to rule a kingdom at the age of 8 or 9? You know how many kidpreneurs we have? How many children with amazing business ideas would be actually applying them right now if they understood that children from the past, from thousands of years ago, had this ability? There's nothing new under the sun. If they had that ability, you have that ability. It's just a matter of unlocking it.
And like, if we're really being real, I sit in a school of students who are in 12th grade and who don't feel powerful enough to come off mute. Like that's where we are right now in 2020, where we have students who don't feel powerful enough to come off mute because they don't know that what you just said is literally, and not figuratively, not, oh, Eva's making a tagline, literally in their DNA, like literally in there. And so I sit here from my Zoom screen,
Yes.
trying to figure out, how do I get you to understand that you are so powerful that they're scared to teach you?
So
Since we have to continue the work every day, we have to literally recondition their minds. Reconditioning takes time. It takes time. That's why it's important what we're taught and the people that are carrying it out. That's why it's also important we have educators of color in the classroom that children can identify with. There is no reason why you should be living this world where you're being limited. Limitations. What is that about? You're not limited when you go to pick, your favorite food off the fast food menu. There's like 50 options. Why are you limited with your curriculum? Why are you limited with the books or the themes that you're allowed to even study or read in school? It doesn't make any sense. We need to do better, but we need to stay committed. What you do every day is so critical, and I thank you for that. I thank you for the work that you do. I thank your father for the work that he does. And, I'm going to continue to stay disciplined and do the work that I do. We may not all have the same path, but we're all on the same journey. And I don't know about you guys, but we have to do our part to really transform this world. And it's not just me or just you or just him. It is that collective work. We need to stay supportive of one another too. I feel that if we would only band together more and support each other, pull up that chair at the table, because there's more than enough room. This isn't a competition. There's more than enough room at the table, on the stage, in every place. And when it comes to our youth, we have to make sure that we're not giving up. We can't afford to give up.
Right.
We can't afford to give up, or this world is just going to burn. And I don't know about you, but I want the hope of prosperity and progression. Otherwise, I wouldn't have brought children into this world. I know there's more that I could do. That's why I leveled up and stepped up. That's why you stepped up. That's why you stepped up. Right. Look at what we're doing now. We're creating an amazing content that's going to hopefully wake some people up or encourage those that are already tapped in. We're doing the work, and we need to just continue it each day and make sure that we're elevating each other, supporting each other to do the same.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, a couple of things came up for me in everything that both of you guys were both describing. And you spoke to not giving up, on the kids, and the idea that the kids give up on themselves. When a child is a baby and they're getting up to start walking, that uncomfortability that you talked about is there. They're not comfortable. Their legs are shaking. They're wobbling. They're ready to fall over. But is there ever a point where we think it's okay to say, all right, go forget about it? You're just not going to be able to walk. No, there's no time that we look at it that way. And so just that one illustration, what winds up happening is that once people get to school, the unfortunate thing is we start telling them you're right and you're wrong, and we don't focus in nearly enough on just saying, just get to where you teach them to mastery. Like it's you learn this word and you learn this word, you learn this word. You can get as much of them wrong as possible. We don't care. People don't want to get off mute because they don't want to be wrong. They don't want to be. They don't want somebody to look at them like they're dumb, because they think the only job that they have is to learn. When the reality is that we need to learn and we need to unlearn every bit as much as we need to learn. So if we can do both of those things at the same time, that puts us in a much better position to allow kids the kids should be creating the future. Like, it's I believe that children are the future. Fantastic song. Yes. But they are. And so we should be co-creating that future with them. Everything about school, in my opinion, should be projects that you work on within the community. Let's write some children's books with the students where they get enrolled in that passion that you have. They can have it too, and they do have it if we don't beat it out of them. So we do have a whole bunch of work to do. Some of it's institutional. Some of it is things like your book finding its way inside the institution, and then just opening up a way for us to keep on walking in with more until it's so self-evident that this is what the kids need, and it can't be denied anymore.
Absolutely.
I love that.
When did you actually come over from Germany?
I was very young. I was only 6, 7 years old.
Okay. So you didn't really know about the culture and things, but you did mention that there was a whole you spent a lot of time talking to people around the world. What, from your perspective, do you think is the difference between the way things are done in other places? Some of which may be better and some of which may be worse.
Well, the way what is done specifically, because that's a long list.
Sorry.
You mean education or?
Yeah, specific to education, and specific to education of Black students, and making sure that those Black students get an understanding of who they are.
I think the main difference between the American education system and that in other countries, and I mean African countries and actually even European countries, is the fact that the truth isn't taught. I don't know how else to say it, but the truth isn't taught. So other countries are not scared to really put out their laundry list of things that they've done that are wrong. Even look at Germany, like how they talk about the Holocaust, how they accept the responsibility, what they do every day to ensure that history is not forgotten, what they've done around the country to remember the lives. Whereas here in America, we have to protest to get statues taken down, right, of these glorified soldiers, we'll say, and generals at a time in American history that was devastating. It's such a stark difference. The rest of the world, once again, it teaches actual history as well. They really want to get into culture. They want you to understand a country's culture. They won't just give you a small percentage of it and then expect you to take that as the full, as the full pie, like just give you one slice. Whereas here they give you just one slice. Especially a child of color, they give you one slice to say, here you go, this is where you come from. You come from slaves. You still have not been advanced, even through everything that you marched for and fought for in civil rights. This is what it is. Glorify Harriet Tubman and glorify MLK and just glorify that's it. This is all you get. Now go from here.
And glorify them without articulating that they broke the law.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
You know what that means? Yeah. When we actually, even if those were the only people we taught, which we do, right? Mm-hmm. Even if that was all we taught, imagine we said explicitly to kids that they broke the law. What does that say to them? Mm-hmm. Well, that says to them exactly what they said in the end of the Great Debaters. An unjust law is no law at all, right? Yeah. And so it's thinking about when we have people, or we had people for days after days after days after days, which turned into months, mm-hmm. protesting in the street and damaging property. Yeah. What does it mean when we care more about the property than what the people are fighting for? Because Martin Luther King Jr. broke the law on several occasions and was in prison several times. Mm-hmm.
And also, he was not well liked at that time. It's not like the way that we look at him today.
Everyone loves him.
It's very easy to get it twisted. The way that I was taught, I don't know that I wrestled with it until later on in life. That this is, he did these things. He was a great man and all of that stuff. But they didn't think so at the time. This is something.
They were bugging his phone.
Right. Oh yeah, they were following his wife.
They were following his wife and his children. And by they, we mean the FBI, just to be clear.
Let's be
clear. And so it's thinking about how we look at history, how we revise history in a way to make it seem as though change and making the world a better place is a linear, let's hug each other and love everyone. And that's
correct. Right.
It doesn't talk about the fact that we have to burn things to the ground in order to get to where we need to go. And so me and my dad talked about this the other day. Nobody said, and I'm not the first person to say this, so I'm not going to act as though, but nobody said, let's reform slavery. Let's figure out how we can fix it to make it a little better. So why are we sitting here saying, let's just fix this system that people die in every day, like mass incarceration? Right. Why would we say, let's fix this system where kids are getting pushed out of school buildings every single day? Where I have students who don't have actual access, both physically and mental access to learning and to education in a school building. Why am I saying I want to reform that? I don't. I want it to be burned to the ground. That's
dismantle it. We have to dismantle it and build it back up.
And build it back up, because regardless of what we do in any system that currently exists in the United States of America and beyond, regardless of what we do, without recreating, we forget the fact that if we make the system, if we recreate a system that supports Black students, which we know historically is the least common denominator, we make the system better for every single other child that exists in that system. If Black students have access to the information, if Black students can do this, can feel as though they are taking ownership over their education, you're not going to tell me that the white students in the class are not doing the same thing.
Everyone will advance.
Everyone does better.
Do you understand? Everyone would advance. What an amazing society we'll be creating. It's like a utopia of well-rounded humans.
That's what I'm saying. Why are we fighting about this?
That are happy because they're living in their purpose, that are contributing to society in the proper way. But there's no power in that, sis. There's no power. There's no control.
How do you control?
You need to have a majority minority mindset.
How do you
there's some sort of power and control?
How do you control people who feel free? You can't.
You can't. That's why they don't.
We're here giving them an education that shoves information down their throat but doesn't make them feel free.
Listen, last week was my birthday. Thank you, sis. And right around my birthday is one of the most dreaded holidays. I've never loved it, is Columbus Day. My kindergartner, my 5-year-old son, who is doing virtual learning, so I'm his teacher at home, has a packet every day of work. I open the packet. Lo and behold, a wonderful glorified photo of Christopher Columbus and the ships, and glorifying him as a world explorer that helped so many people. I cringed when I saw it, but I refused to let my son, one, miss a point on his schoolwork. But before I had him complete it and read the directions, I actually explained to him who this person was. And I told him the truth. I told him in a way that he could understand, as a 5-year-old could understand. But there was no way that I was going to let him believe the lie. So parents, individuals in our communities, don't feel that you have to lie to your children or to the youth. You tell them the truth in a way that they understand, but you have to set their minds free. Because now what has happened is every time my child opens up his packet, he's looking at things and he's saying, Mommy, I think they're trying to trick me with this question. Son, they are trying to trick you with that question. I'm happy you picked up on it.
Right.
Okay. So now he's aware. And unfortunately, that's how he will need to be, at least in this country. So I have to build him up. Just like how I build up my young readers, I have to build up my own sons. I have to build them up to see the world for how it is, at least here in this society. Everything isn't just one way or another way. There's always a third way that they don't tell you about. There's always something else happening that you will never know. You think it's just left and right. It's not just left and right. You can go right up the middle, but no one to tell him that, right? It's up to me. It's up to all of us to really dismantle everything and build them back up. So I brought that up as an example to just show you how early the conditioning starts. This is kindergarten.
They are not already starting. They're not.
It even starts in their programming, in the cartoons that they're watching. That's so entertainment versus educational. That's another reason why I'm branching out and taking Naya Zuri books, and now I'm creating a cartoon series. Because yes, sis, we need that representation. That there are a lot of people at a lot of networks trying to run because it's like the cool thing in. No, we should have been flooding and dominating this market in the first place, because we need representation. And we need quality representation, not just the standard of what you see, the same little girl, little girl, little girl. No, like, give us quality education, show us something, teach us something. But guess what? They're not going to do it. And they're not going to do it the right way. They end up creating shows that are canceled. Like you saw what recently happened. One show just copies another show, they take it down. We need to step up. We need to step up, and all of the animators, illustrators, cartoonists, everybody that's out there, guess what? Show your skill. We need to change that narrative. We need to show them what we contribute to this world. Show them your history and your worth. The one that's built on millennia of pyramids and chests of golds and diamonds, realizing that we are decorating ourselves not because we value these resources. We never valued them. That's why invaders came in your country and took them. We never valued them. We valued ourselves, our beings. We understood that we were gods and goddesses. And we had people come in and take away that knowledge for us and make us feel inferior. How dare they? But how dare us to not dismantle that and build our children up in it?
Yep.
We know. Once you know better, you do better.
Yeah.
I think it's starting to happen, man. I really do. You know, you know, it's unfortunate. I don't want to say it's unfortunate. It seems that the way of the world is, you know, pendulum swinging, and you know, sometimes, you know, you need a big orange man to come and stomp and, you know, act crazy for people to open their eyes.
Orange stink bug.
You know, sometimes that's the type of thing that needs to happen. You know, sometimes people have to die in a way that, you know, none of us want to. Nobody wanted George Floyd to die. You know, it's if he could be alive again, we would all say yes. You know, he should be alive again. But you know, his little girl said it right. He was like, "Daddy changed the world," and I believe that is something we're in an infancy. Like, you know, the problem is you know, so much of society, we want to snap our fingers and we want to, you know, be there. You know, we still got a whole bunch of work to do. But I think that there are minds that are opening up, hearts that are opening up, and people connecting in ways that they have not in the past. And this work actually it exposes us to it. You know, we're able to meet a great deal of people. You know, and great folks like you. I spend a lot of time during the day reading, you know, a lot of the stuff that's wrong, and then I get on calls like this, and I'm like, yes, I'm encouraged again that the work is being done. I don't know if you guys saw, but you know, Diddy, in conjunction with some other folks, are starting a political party, our Black Party. So they, you know, they have set out a number of issues that are going to be focused on. You know, I listened to him talking to Charlemagne today, and he's kind of said that, you know, with this election, look, we got to vote for Joe, like, you know what I mean. But in the future, he wants to build things up in a way where nobody, you want our vote, you're gonna have to earn it. And so we look forward to, you know, kind of working with organizations like that to speak to. We literally have not heard anything about education at any of these debates at all. Nobody's talking about education at all. How is this within the realm of possibility? It's crazy.
And I have kids crying on Zoom, forgetting to turn themselves on mute, and hearing them literally going off camera and crying because of how overwhelmed they feel, how they feel that nobody cares, how they feel that this is just stuff that we want to make them learn to pass a test that we created.
They're kind of right. Like sometimes
they're right. They're do better, and some of the times they're right.
They're 100% right.
Yes.
They're 100% right.
What is that nonsense?
It really is. And so as we start to dwindle down, and as we start to kind of get to the end, which feels crazy, if Naya Zuri was here and she was in a fourth box next to all of us, what would Naya Zuri want to kind of leave folks with?
That's a great question.
Sometimes I just be like proud popping it over here. Like,
okay. Because I am Naya, and Naya is me.
Yeah.
So she's an extension of me. But if the Naya Zuri, if she was here in a fourth box, what should we say? She'd probably speak for herself and everybody that's on this cover, and say, don't forget to do it for us. Don't forget about us. Don't forget about us. This is just the beginning. I'm not the first author of color to write a book that also has representation, but it's not spotlighted enough. It's not talked about enough. That's why I have to just keep going. I have this thing I always say, no days off. I mean it. I don't take a day off. My passion is what I live. It gives me my fulfillment. So it doesn't feel like work. But each and every day I am working towards that Naya Zuri movement and that progression, because I can't forget about them. I can't forget about that younger version of me. I can't forget about my kids or anyone else's kids. Your zip code should not define your possibilities in life. I refuse for children to feel like they don't have a voice, that they don't have any power, or that they don't have any worth, that they're not even worth enough being represented on the cover of a book. That's unacceptable to me. And what's also unacceptable is them not learning their own history and actually learning education that could have other children embrace one another, creating to a society of better human beings that are not ignorant or that are loving and that are going to build this country the way that it should. We need to continue to support our own. We need to create our own. I'm excited to hear about the political party. I haven't read too much about it, so I don't want to make too many comments, but we should have our own everything. And that is a stark difference between the Black people in America and the Black people everywhere else. They have their own. We should have our own. So let's work towards that progression. Let's work towards the world recognizing us and not looking down on us. Because that's what's happening now. And we are successors. So everything that I do, once again, the root is the youth. Because from the youth,
we create the rest of the world.
We create the rest of the world, sis. You took the words right out of my mouth.
Yeah.
So let's continue the work.
Absolutely.
I mentioned the I forgot the name of it, but I mentioned the political party, our Black party. But Killer Mike also is working on a Black bank, which, I think these are foundational things, like our economic power and our political power that they're tied together with our educational power. So like there's a triangle there that if we develop, we can create the type of communities that we desire. So I'm looking forward to continuing to work with you. At some point in time, Black on Black education is going to have 24/7 content going, and I definitely know that Miss Naya Zuri, that cartoon is going to be a major part of our content, and we can't wait.
Thank you. Speaking into existence, I appreciate both of you. Thank you for creating this platform that you have. And the more that we come together, we show the world and we show the people that they're not alone. Okay, we're having the important conversations, but we're coming out of this and also working to inspire other people to keep the conversations going. But then the second part to that, right? Take some sort of action. Everyone can do something. Everyone can do something because everybody has a voice.
Right.
If you have a voice, it just takes a few words sometimes to uplift or inspire someone out of their way, to share knowledge. It just takes a voice.
Yeah.
Anna's not saying that. She's not saying that to for you to go in one ear and out the other. It's write something down right now. Like what is it that you're gonna do? When you finish listening to this podcast, what are you gonna do this weekend? Like let's do this. We can do this.
Yes, brother. Be purposeful. Don't sleep the rest of this quarantine away either, folks. Get up. Apply that research that you've done on quarantine, or turn off that Netflix and turn on yourself. How are you investing in yourself right now? How are you sharpening your skill set? Are you even doing that inner work to figure out if you're happy in life? Are your children happy in life? What more could you be doing? Because what's happening now is unacceptable. This year that we're living in, 2020, is unacceptable. We've never seen times like this. What are you doing to ensure we don't come back to this? Because this, honestly, I feel like we've been set back 10, 20 years. And I don't know about you, but if this is what happened in 2020, 2021, we should be leading. We should be transforming. We should be fulfilling those dreams and those goals. As Jamal just mentioned, like, don't just write it down. Let's apply it now. Really get that vision going so you can use it.
All right.
Yeah.
So one of the things that we like to do to kind of end off each podcast is we say to our guests, find out whether they have any questions for us. So anything you'd like to ask us?
Oh, we were just talking about goal setting. What are some of the 2021 goals for Black on Black education?
Well, the 2021 goals are for it to be my full-time job. I am putting it out to existence. I think that where I'm at and who I am and what I have to offer the world is bigger than where I'm at right now. And I need to be able to make that transition so that I can start supporting students in a more holistic way without the DOE telling me how I'm supposed to support them.
Yes.
And I think that that's my biggest goal for 2021.
and you know that this isn't the smartest goal in that it's not as specific as you know as it should be, but it is definitely, you know, finding some monetization opportunities, so that, I mean, it is my full time, you know, right right now, so that it can be our, you know, full time. I think that when people do good, people should do good. Like, you know, if you're going out there and you're creating something that helps to uplift our community, you should absolutely be, you know, compensated handsomely for that. You know, we speak about teachers all the time, and you know, Shivy, this guy who who we were on his show, he's down in Atlanta, and you know, he put it out there. He said that, you know, I think it was $39,000 or something, you know, being paid as a teacher. So, you know, anybody who's making $39,000, I mean, it's just not a lot of money. It's as simple as that. Like we people who are in the classroom and doing a good job, they should be able to earn far more money than that. And there also needs to be some major gap between the best teacher and the worst teacher. Like the best teacher and the worst teacher making the same amount of money, that doesn't make sense. It's something that is not a part of many institutions, and it's something that has to be weeded out of the education system stat.
Absolutely. And the worst teacher, if the worst teacher is causing harm to students, it needs to be easy peasy to get them out of there. And so I leave on that. Administrators, people who are out there, if the worst teacher in your school is like, I don't care. The baseline is that every person in that building should not be causing harm to students, should be giving students something that makes their life better. Yeah. And so I'd love to leave with that. But please, if there is anything else you want to leave us with before we get out of here, it's been 46 minutes and 41 seconds.
46 minutes, we could be talking for hours.
And we can keep going. We can keep going.
Where you located, Anna?
I'm in Connecticut.
Okay, what part?
Next
I'm
door.
in Hartford.
Hartford. Okay, not too far. We're planning to have some type of, you know, educator dinner kind of get together, something, you know, where I can, you know, showcase my, you know, cooking skills and and just say how I appreciate anybody who is pouring into the heads and hearts of these little boys and little girls.
Well, if I get a shirt, invite me.
And so make sure Eva has your address, and we definitely actually, no, you're gonna have to come to the event, and then you can get your shirt.
I'll definitely be there. I'd love to continue just to support both of you in what you're doing. It's important work, and let's just also leave the people with that. When you see someone doing something good, contribute to it, spotlight it. You know, help lift and hold somebody's arms up. You don't know how long that they've been working on making sure that this message gets out there or that a project gets completed. You don't know. So support them, really support and pull up. And you'll see a drastic difference in how you can further that impact.
Absolutely.
On that note, like, I mean, how can we support you? Like it's how can anyone listen and, you know, go about the business to support you?
Honestly, guys, to just continue to spread the word on Naya Zuri. Obviously, you can purchase the books on my website, www.ananyakana.com. We'll put that somewhere so you can access it. There's also free downloadable resources on my website. So teachers, parents, you can go to my website and you can download everything from crossword puzzles and coloring pages for the younger kids to more story mapping and character design for the older children. I put them all out there in the world because it's something that should be accessible. It's not just for me. And just keep in touch with me. I have a lot of projects coming up in addition to the cartoon. And I'm always planting seeds because you already know, no days off. So I'm always planting seeds, and then the harvest comes and like, boom, everybody, here's a bounty. Enjoy it. Like, here you go. This is what I'm working on.
Love it.
I love it.
So thank you, everybody, for listening. Thank you, Anna, so much for being with us this evening. We definitely appreciate it. And until next we speak.
Bye, everybody.
Bye. Stay safe.